hours, basically. For those of you who don't know, um, well, let me put it this way. The FGC, the fighting game community, is something that I used to be a part of a very long time ago. You know, I would say probably late 90s, all the 2000s, and effectively I kind of retired from the fighting game community in the early 2010s when I basically decided I wasn't going to be part of the competitive circle anymore. It was around, I'd say probably like 2012, 2013. I decided that I was going to focus more. Is my camera choppy today? Looks a little choppy. I'll check it out. I decided I wanted to focus more on my YouTube stuff and being a variety content creator than really worrying too much about competitive Street Fighter play. And at that time, as you saw, I broke out, and yes, I still covered fighting games on the internet, but I did a lot more stuff. And then since then, in the last decade, I've completely kind of broken out of that fighting game mold, and I'm a very different kind of person and content creator today than I used to be. However, the fighting game community just has a really bad habit of not being able to shut up about me. Even though I barely ever talk about them, half the time that I talk about them, it's in a positive light. And for example, you know, Street Fighter 6, I actually feel like it's a great game. It's something that I'm going to be getting into. I'm very excited for it. I covered the beta twice in a very positive manner, and I actually cannot wait to jump into it, right? But every time that I start feeling reinvigorated about the fighting game community, they rear their ugly head and they show how they can be a bunch of assholes. Now, I don't want to give the impression today on the podcast that essentially everyone in the fighting game community is bad. I don't want to put that out there. What I know is that in the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a group of people who've become prominent in the fighting game community who are not representative of everyone, but end up being kind of vocal figureheads, and they're assholes. All right? People who, they don't really respect the past, they don't really understand the past, and basically they will take jabs whenever they can to get it's this mentality of, get a rise out of people, get clickbait views today, say something insulting about someone so that you can get over on them. It's basically popularity by any means necessary. You know, back during the Street Fighter 4 era, it became very prominent when things like YouTube and streaming were becoming very prominent. Do whatever you can to try to get popular. And a lot of the time back then, I was a popular guy for Street Fighter 4, despite the fact I wasn't competitively good at it. I never was. I never was winning tournaments or anything in the game, but I was putting out so many videos that if you search for Street Fighter 4 on YouTube, you would find me before you would find the pro players. And a lot of them hated me. In that era, there was guys like Gutex and Mike Ross who would outright come out and talk shit about me, even though I didn't even know who they were. I was like, I don't know why they would talk shit. I don't know who they are at all, nor do I care. Fast forward to over 10 years later, the same shit happens. Whenever they can get an opportunity to somehow get a laugh, get a rise, they will name drop me in a very negative way to try to get themselves some kind of a rise. And it's happening again right now. Now, there is a story going on in the fighting game community featuring someone who is an OG, one of the older school gamers like myself. I would argue that this person, Arturo Sanchez, actually is older school than I am. He was part of the competitive community before I became part. I was kind of becoming it in the late 90s. He had been part of the New York City competitive community ever since like the Street Fighter became prominent in arcades, you know, early 90s. And right now, he is under fire in the fighting game community. You know, what they're accusing him of is some pretty heinous stuff. And people have been coming to my streams over the last week asking me about it. Phil, what do you think about the Arturo situation? Do you have anything to add? What's your take on it? You knew him back in the day. You know, what do you think? And I have pretty much abstained from talking about it simply because I wasn't educated on it. It doesn't make sense for me to try to speak to a subject when I have not looked up on everything about it at all. I feel like I would be out of place to try to say, oh yeah, well, I know this guy and I know this, you know, I didn't know anything about it, okay? So, you know, I'm just like, whatever. It's drama. We'll ignore it. Who cares? It has nothing to do with me. I'm not part of the FGC. In the last 24 hours, several people in the FGC are now name-dropping me, saying that this situation with Arturo is similar to things that have happened with me, and Arturo is taking the DSP line of defense, which is horrible for him, because everyone knows that DSP is guilty of all the things that people say about him, and he has no real defense against it, so he refuses to defend himself, and therefore, you know, he's a scumbag, and we all hate him. So now Arturo's the new DSP. I'm not kidding you, this is what people in the FGC are saying now, and I'm not very happy about it, all right? Because the thing is, I have defended myself. The thing is, I have, over the years, had several opportunities and times when things that have been said about me were wrong. It was proven to be wrong, all right? But then what happened is they just move on to the next thing. When one thing is proven to be incorrect, half-truths, conspiracy, nonsense, they just move on to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And I've explained numerous times over the years why I can't really come out and defend myself against crazy accusations because it would put me and my family at risk to do so. I even showed concrete evidence last year that me just giving you a tiny little snippet of information about my car breaking down could result in people committing identity theft and trying to basically get all kinds of personal information about me. I did a test, and the trolls fell for it hook, line, and sinker, and I proved that they're so insane that it would not be safe for me to expose any of my own personal information because of the levels that they go to try to ruin my life, all right? For those who don't remember, my car broke down. All I said was my car broke down, I gotta get it fixed, okay? The trolls literally called every car place in my area. Dozens. Till finally they fooled one, because that was the one I actually had gone to. They gave them basic information about me, and were able to obtain the entire fucking invoice of all the car repairs I had done. They basically committed mass identity theft, and impersonation and fraud to get private information. Now, luckily, none of the information on the invoice was important. It wasn't like there was anything on there that would expose me or hurt my family. But the point is, if they can do that with that, they can do it with anything. A little piece of information, right? If I turn on my phone and I just show you the screen and they see apps on there, or they see a login on there or whatever, that's it. They will go to town, right? And I can't have that kind of liability, you see? So, the point I'm making here is, they're now trying to say that everything going on with Arturo Sanchez and the FGC is exactly the same as me, because Arturo tried to defend himself yesterday on a live stream, and apparently he did very poorly, or at least to the criteria of what the FGC wanted to hear from him. It was very, very bad the way that he defended himself, and it just, like, he ended up looking worse, and they're all saying, oh, that's just like Phil. Okay. We're going to address this today, because I'm actually going to cover the entire subject now from start to finish, to let you guys know what's going on, and I'm not too happy about it, and I'm going to put this shit to bed, because I'm tired of these little bitches in the FGC to keep putting my name in their mouth, not knowing what the hell they're talking about, so it's time to shut them up. One other thing, by the way, I will say this, okay? If you're in the FGC, and you want to talk shit about someone, actually watch the source material. Don't watch the hater videos, because you just make yourself look like a bunch of fucking jackasses. Because if you're just watching hater videos about someone, you're watching one side, you're watching highlights of only the things they want you to hear. You're not hearing the whole situation. Alright? If you want to hear my whole take on this subject today, watch this entire podcast in its entirety. Don't go watch 5 highlight videos from my haters that cut out 90% of the important information and only put a little bit of information there that's stuff that makes me look bad, or, you know, it's only highlights spliced together to make a point, to insult me, because that's what the FGC does. They're, you know, these people who love to publicly bring me up are morons. They're only in it for the clickbait. They're only in it for that momentary burst of information and burst of attention. So they'll name drop me and say something negative about me and then have no corroboration, or they'll link you to a hater video. It's called being a dunce, okay? Anyway, we're going to cover that today. And the thing is, I had no intention of doing that. I was going to not cover this topic. I didn't feel like I had enough investment in it. It didn't have, you know, I didn't have anything to do with it. Yes, do I know Arturo? Yes, I do. From back in the day. You know, went to many tournaments with him, had lots of interaction with him as a person and a competitive player. But I didn't feel like, you know, with the modern FGC, I didn't know enough about it to really comment. Well, now you made me go out of my way to basically research it and comment on it because you brought me up. Alright? And, you know, the truth is, I prefer to stay out of this nonsense, but if you want to bring my name up and name drop me, now you're going to regret it. Yep, you are. Okay. So anyway, guys, we'll get to that, alright?